So I want you to cast your mind back, as long as you can remember. What's your earliest memory? I think for me, I can think back to my first day at school. When I was 5, I still remember the smell of it and the fear. And I remember riding my bike without training wheels for the first time, maybe age 4. And then sometimes I think if I try really hard, I have this memory of holding my little baby brother in the hospital when I was about 2. But I've always been unsure whether this is like an actual memory or just prompted by the photo. Also, I wanted to point out how cool my jumper is in this photo. I think I definitely got less cool as I got older. Anyway, enough about me. I want you to cast your minds back as long as you can remember. Maybe a million years ago. These guys here have no idea that the hottest first ever tech innovation is about to drop. It's not that, but that is funny. It's of course fire. Oh, that's cool. I wanted to start talking about fire today because the first time that I really came across AI as thinking it was something legit that was going to make an impact was, I remember it was a podcast and I heard Barack Obama, who was quoting Sundar Pichai, talking about AI as being more profound than fire. And I thought, more profound than fire? Fire was pretty profound for our species. It's quite a big deal. Fire for cooking meant like literally bigger brain sizes. Around 20% of the calories we consume every day go straight to these massive brains that we have. Some of us larger than others. And they're expensive to run. Bigger brains allowed us to do everything that we've done since then. Allowed rich communication, mass teamwork, mass cooperation, civilization, all aspects of human flourishing we have today can stem from the first creative act and innovation of controlling fire. Automation, on the other hand, I kind of think is the opposite, right? So automation is quite punishing. You want to punish your brain? Try and force yourself to do some automated tasks. Try doing data entry for a month. Try and scrub the road outside your house or drag big, massive stones into place to build a pyramid. What a waste. Humans have been doing monotonous and soulless jobs like this and that should be automated for forever. We're fire, not stone. Humans are not blunt instruments. I believe that we are all creative beings, but creativity is not always that easy if we don't feel super confident in wielding this magic. And this led me to a very important realization. Some things are meant to be hard. Almost everything that's rewarding in life, everything that's worth doing is hard, right? Love and relationships is hard. Career success is hard. Art is extremely hard, but that's great. If these things were all easy, there wouldn't be any richness. There wouldn't be the beauty that we get. But fortunately, as hard as all these things are, we do, of course, have tools to help us. Socrates, one of the most famous philosophers and intellectuals of all time, was very famously against writing things down. He thought it made us stupider. Me, not very famous nor intellectual, I remember not being allowed to use a calculator in exams, which is something I thought was incredibly stupid. The Luddites in 19th century England were weavers and textile workers. They organized protests and destroyed machines. They were angry about the increasing use of automation in their work and in the factories and textile production. They were worried about their jobs, of course, but more than that, they were worried about the crappy quality that these machines produced. They thought some things are worth doing well. These examples I've just been given all address purity. So purity, when it's blind, can be incredibly destructive. I'm talking mostly to myself here. When being intentional about the tools we use, I don't want you to think in terms of purity and dogma, I do this, I use this. I want you to think in terms of dials. I think this is a good way of thinking about these things. How much fire, how much stone. So if I ask an AI model to produce me an image of a dog, it will consider the millions of images of dogs that it has ingested and spit out something like this, for example. This good boy. But this feels kind of original and creative, but it's not quite. It's an averaging of all the things that it's ingested. Now this may well change very well in the future. You'll know more than me, and I want you to be ready for it because I want you to be very intentional about the way we use these tools, even as they get more powerful before our very eyes. I think this quote really captures the feeling of quite a lot of artists and creatives that were quite aggravated about the way that these technologies have been released. And I include myself in that. But it's a very valid thought to remember when we get excited about the power of these tools just for the sake of the power. So I'm naturally quite a lazy person. A shortcut to something is like, I'm pretty amenable to that. I'm up for negotiation. But shortcuts create weakness and reinforce more laziness. Humans like to be useful. We like to contribute. We like to create. We're built for this. We're creative beings. And we've gotten really good at making stuff. When you work hard on a project, do you get stronger, more skilled, more thoughtful, or insightful? Do you learn things and get better? Or do you just manufacture? Now, I know some projects are more the manufacturing type, but I'm talking about the difference between work and labor, fire and stone. It's about being intentional, especially now that we're tempted with more shortcuts than ever before. I'd encourage you to remember that sweat is a good thing. You get better with sweat. Why? So I have a very cool job of being creative director at TAKK, which is a climate-focused beauty essentials company. We stand against the wasteful and manipulative practices in the industry and try to do the right thing. Multi-use products, sustainable innovations, and we don't try to make you feel ugly. That's kind of the key point. TAKK is about intentional simplicity. The beauty industry is a huge contributor to waste and emissions and depression, but these things are all choices made by industry. So at TAKK, we're demonstrating a better way, where the choices are made by us and you and everyone. It's a much more empowering way. So I wanted to share with you today one particular project that we are working on and explain some of our thinking, in the hope that it might inspire you too. But before that, I want to talk about speed. As many of you will know, in e-commerce, speed is the playbook for everything. We want to take someone from when they first arrive on a website and we want to nudge them all the way along the process until we get the money, right? This is the common understanding of e-commerce. This is what everyone will teach you. That's not really what we believe. We're trying to take a different approach. We're building a product called First phase of this product we launched this week, and it's an intentional buying tool. See, you don't make intentional decisions when you're rushed and overstimulated. We want to encourage calm and thoughtfulness, unlike the main e-commerce companies. You can kind of see, yeah, it's a little bit small there. It's a radical bit of shopping aftercare. After you've confirmed your order, we invite you to reflect on your purchase. Is there a chance that there might be an impulse decision that you've made here, an impulse purchase? And at the end, we calculate that, yeah, if you did, we do the craziest e-commerce decision that we've ever done, and we offer to immediately refund your money. This is after you've done everything, after we've taken you through the website, you've decided what you're going to buy, we've literally taken the money. If you reflect using our tool and it turns out that you are making an impulse decision, we'll give you your money back. Done. Because our commitment to TAKK is that we only want to sell you what you need. And we take that very seriously. So how, as an e-commerce store, do we create intentionality? We don't want people to not buy stuff that they need. We just want them to really pause and think. But we're not their mum. We don't want to scold them or make them feel bad. We want it to be calm. Or e-commerce. We want to empower people. So the next phase of is not just to offer to refund your order, but to help provide an intelligent conversation that's hyper-specific to your life and your needs, which is going to be crazy, before you buy. Who do you normally talk about when you buy stuff? Who do you talk about buying decisions with? Your partner, your friends? Like, we're not very good at talking about why we buy stuff with people. For a species that's currently consuming the Earth's resources at 1.7 times the amount of Earths we have, we really need to get better at considering the things that we buy. I think can help. What if you could speak to Coco Chanel about a jacket you're about to buy, or Jeremy Clarkson about a car, or Al Gore about the environmental impact, or Aristotle about the morality of something? All these conversations being specific to your unique situation and the things that you're thinking about buying. This is completely impossible, of course, but with AI, I think we can do this, and I think this is going to be something that's really valuable that could cause changes to everything. And it's all based upon the idea of a So I've spent the last 15 years or so of my career working in creative industries. I've made a big mistake that I never learned to specialize when I was young. And so instead of spending my career getting really good at one thing, I kind of did a few different things. So I've got skills across audio and music and radio and media and design, and I try and link these things together. So I have a couple of takeaways from that. One is, generalizing is the long way to get good at stuff. And two, the process of creative work, the actual way you do creativity, it's pretty transferable across practices. And I wonder if creativity itself, as opposed to the technical skills driving the thing, is actually the real competitive edge for us to master as we move into this new world of prompts. So to me, all creativity requires two ingredients: the spark and the hammer. That's what I call it. The spark is the magical bit of inspiration that hits you in the middle of the night or in the shower, or usually completely unbidden. It's hard to make it appear. Not usually something that's fully formed either, but the spark of an idea, the start, the seed of something. It's quite an exciting feeling if you've ever experienced this. It's one of my favorite feelings in the world. But unfortunately, I've never worked on a creative project where we had sparks the whole time. They just don't work like that. They come and go as they please, they move fluidly. They're quite flirty and unpredictable. But there are some spark hunting strategies that I've learned to be quite reliable, and this is I'm going to give you these for free, right? So, number one, get up off your ass. I've never had a great idea sitting at my desk. Well, I actually probably haven't had too many great ideas anyway, but they definitely never happened at my desk. All the best sparks come when your brain is engaged, but when your brain is relaxed, but slightly engaged in something else. So going for a slow and fairly aimless walk is like my personal favorite of all time. This works quite well. But some people prefer doing household chores or lifting weights, watching Seinfeld, whatever you got to do. But there's something about being slightly preoccupied with an easy task and having an idle momentum that I think really helps to tease out sparks. The second thing, at the risk of sounding like an absolute boomer, is attention to the present. And real attention, deep attention. We never really allow ourselves to get bored anymore. And I think a little boredom is essential for catching sparks. So next time you have a couple of minutes, you're waiting for the bus or something, I would challenge you to try and let yourself be bored. Don't reach for the phone. Have a look at around you. You could do it now if I'm getting boring. Like, I look at this room and I think, what is the texture that they've made this wall out of? Like, why did they build this lectern here? Are these like mass produced, or is this a bespoke thing? Like, really look and understand it. It's a really interesting thing for your brain. It helps to unload some of the stimulation that we have from day to day and might just lead to a spark. And the third one is thinking about the things that we put into our brain as a diet. The types of things we put into the brain are invariably the things that come out of our brains in one way or another. We are algorithms too, of course. So how do you feed your brain? Is it a balanced diet of fruit, vegetables, protein, carbohydrates? What do you watch? What do you read? Who do you listen to talk most of the time? We can't control these things entirely, but we can really curate our own menu of brain food. You might just be surprised at how kind of difference that can make. These are the keys, my keys. So moving on from the spark, I want to talk about the hammer, which I think is the next phase. Now, I've learned these things through an awful lot of thumb banging. The first one I want to talk about is suck. So the annoying truth of creative work, I've found, is that almost everything sucks in the beginning. And that's okay. Everything sucks at the start. Even if your spark feels strong and exciting, without a disciplined approach and skills in terms of the crafting and the doing, the work will suck at the start. But it's fine. The gold always comes from the edit. This is true of everything. Just suck and get started. The next one is that if you think that there are 60 minutes in every hour, I'm sorry to tell you that doesn't actually work at all. Not every hour is made up of 60 minutes. When your energy and your mood is right, the creative progress you can make in 1 hour can be equivalent to the creative progress you can make in 20 hours, 30 hours when you're aggravated and distracted. Hammers are pretty tiring to wield. Manage your schedule, listen to your body, allow some slack, and ride the waves. You'll find your flows. But oftentimes brute forcing creativity when your body and your mind is not in the right place for it can feel like discipline. Usually it's creative destruction. And finally, my third point for the hammering process. Assessing a piece of creative work is one of the hardest things you can do, whether it's a group or by yourself, to have an objective opinion on something. So I use this technique that I call freezering. At a certain point, in any project that makes sense for the momentum and the timing, whatever, you need to stop working on it. Finish up and put it in the freezer. And then this is the really hard part. Don't look at it for as long as possible. In fact, you want to try and forget about it entirely. The only way to really get a true assessment on a piece of work that you've been doing is by unloading it from your brain completely, which is really difficult. But this is one of my favorite creative strategies. It's oftentimes impractical, but if you can make it work, it's very powerful. I find it truly staggering how often I'll look at a piece of work that I did 6 months ago or a year ago and think, wow, I was so excited about that. That's rubbish. Or the opposite. So suck and start, hour inequality, and freezering. Now, all this talk of creativity and sparks and magical hammers might make some of you feel a little uncomfortable, especially if you think of yourselves to be more rational, logical kind of people. In every company I've ever worked in, there's been people who say, oh, but I don't have a creative bone in my body. Now, that's an absolute load of shit. Every bone in your body is a creative bone. Your ancestors that couldn't innovate creatively, they never got a chance to pass on their genes. They didn't make it, but you did. You can trace your creativity back through a long line of creative survivors, right back to your great grandmother who controlled fire in that cave. We are all creatives. I believe this with all of my heart, but all of us can still learn to be more creative. All of us need to learn to be more creative because we've got some pretty big problems facing us at the moment. Like, oh, thank goodness, we've got AI to summarize and respond to our emails, to be summarized and responded to by someone else's email summarizer. Like, I get it, but come on, people, focus. We're already using the resources of 1.7 Earths every year, and there's going to be 10 billion of us on it by the end of the century. We human beings need to seriously sort our shit. If AI is going to live up to its potential in transforming medicine, clean energy, and human flourishing, we need to live up to our potential as creative beings. That's the deal. It's for us. If we are intentional about how we use our creativity superpower, and we are wise about technology, the dream of saving the world just isn't that crazy anymore. I mean, it's going to be hard, but some things are meant to be hard. Thank you so much.